Dear boss, I would like to resign due to some staff making me feel uncomfortable. Mainly, Mr. Diet, Miss Exercise. Sincerely, visceral and subcutaneous fat.
What the Hello beautiful minds, welcome to my channel. I am Saika and today I'd like to share to you my experiences and thoughts about one of the reasons why it took me so long to lose the weight, my mentality of resignation. So without further ado, let's get into it. Growing up being fat since I was a child, I was always just used to the concept that I was always just going to be a bigger girl, that my weight was just going to be a part of who I am. And when puberty hit, that was when the insecurity really started to go on full force. I wasn't really overly huge or big as a child, but I was chubby. You know, even in my teens, I was on the chubbier side, I was on the fatter side. I wasn't really thin. But when college came, that was when I really ballooned and blossomed into my fatness. So I just basically gained more and more pounds and I really didn't notice it. Or maybe I denied myself from noticing it. But yeah, I gained so much weight in college. I really became big there. And although my insecurity grew, my weight was never tied down to who I was. And at that time, the body positivity and fat positivity movement were really at its peak. So although I wasn't really deep into their ideology, I still got sucked up into some of their beliefs. My mentality was, this is who I am, it is what it is, I'm fat, and frick the world. But underlying that defiant anger and pride, I knew deep down that my body was deteriorating due to my health, and there were so many factors and wake-up calls and signs of that, but I didn't want to look at that and I just chose to ignore them. I wanted to change, but there was something greatly hindering me from that. Myself. In short, I didn't really accept myself. I just resigned to the fact that I was just going to be fat forever. Before we go into my state of resignation, let us first define what resignation means in the first place. So according to our trusty Google dictionary, it can be defined as the acceptance of something undesirable but inevitable. In relation to this video, I'd like to share 3 points of resignation. First, resignation starts with disappointment. According to Dumb 1988, the moment of disappointment is the occasion of resignation. It does not matter how happy the occasion of any resignation might be, every resignation is connected to disappointment in that every resignation marks a rupture, a quitting, the ending of something. Point 2. Resignation is the act of positively giving up. Resignation, as how Dr. Mike Brooks puts it, is learned helplessness. It is said to occur when we give up in the face of adversity because we don't believe that our efforts make a difference. Resignation, on the other hand, according to My Therapy NYC, is also a way of giving up, of subtly surrendering. Using phrases such as, that's just the way it is, I just need to get over it, are ways of subtle surrender. It is because, according to them, we use pseudo-positive phrases to lessen the negative emotions, and therefore, we also surrender our right to feel how we truly feel deep down inside that could possibly help us resolve our issues. Point 3. Resignation is a detachment to oneself. Because we feel like our predicament is out of our hands, we slowly begin to detach from ourselves. We close ourselves from our own selves and therefore we go at it with passivity. And that's the biggest point of resignation. It's the act of being passive that may carry attitudes of regret and frustration that may lead to resistance. In a way, we lose control because we allow it to be lost. At this point in the video, I'd like now to transition how these points apply to my own personal experience. Truthfully, my disappointment came from the fact that I never lost the weight growing up. Initially, I thought, and because everyone said around me, that I would lose the weight once I ellipsed puberty, that it was just baby fat, and that I would be okay afterwards. But none of that happened. Instead, I just gained and gained and gained more weight. And because of that, I got more disappointed in myself. I just felt felt like I didn't have control over my weight, and that translated to not having control of my life. And of course, with that shame and that guilt, with the fact that everyone around me keeps on telling me that I've gained weight, etc., etc., and you know how the world is, like, it's not as open to fat people, I just sort of accepted it. But truthfully, it was more of giving up without actually trying. Instead of being sad about it and really analyzing what my feelings were, I've just buried those realities and basically adopted the it is what it is attitude. I didn't try to process my feelings, but instead kept up a bravado that I was alright, that I was perfectly healthy, that I could do this, do that, that I was way better than this and that. But deep down, I knew that I had a problem. I became detached to my body in the sense that I didn't acknowledge what it was really going through, but instead I chose to look at it the way I wanted to. Even with how others treated me, I didn't like when some people would acknowledge that I was fat. When my parents or when my family tried to give me advice, I refused it. I flat out denied it. I would get aggressive or I would get mad. I continuously insisted on the things that I can do without looking at the things I couldn't do anymore. It was a weird time because I tried to empower myself without actually connecting and understanding who and what I was empowering in the first place. In totality, resignation, in my opinion, is seeming acceptance without action. I knew the problem, I just denied myself of solving it. And for 20 or so years, it was the mentality I held onto. I was ultimately comfortable in my surrender. Acceptance, on the other hand, may involve lack of power, but it also involves agency and action. According to Julia Flateau 2017, acceptance is an attitude of willing agreement. The state of acceptance by itself does not guarantee engagement or commitment to action. Acceptance, however, is a precondition for responsible action. My Therapy NYC also adds that acceptance comes with acknowledging your reality, validating your feelings, finding your agency, and seeking support. In all cases, especially the steps of My Therapy NYC, I did this in slow increments. How I transitioned from resignation to acceptance was a long way coming, but after so many wake-up calls, I knew I just had to do something. And although I can't really pinpoint to you the moment it shifted for me, I'll just say that the acknowledgement part and the accepting, like truly accepting your problem and facing it, is going to be the hardest part of the game. It took me a long time to accept the ugly truth, but once I did, I started the exercise, I started the diet, and it was through that mental acceptance that I really was able to move, like physically now, and translate that into my diet and also into my exercise. So I did it slowly until I could face myself without the self-loathing and without the disappointment, but just to assess myself, see where the problem lies, and try to solve it in ways that I could. Instead of mentally resisting, I slowly embraced the change that was eventually going to happen. But just so you know, the struggle was real. I was never really fully committed at the start, but after seeing results, like small, tiny results, it was enough to push me to go on further, to just go and try it and see where I could go. And here we are, minus 45 pounds later, or 20 kilograms later, and in my healthy range, and honestly, I've never felt happier. In conclusion, the biggest difference between resignation and acceptance is simple: agency. It is the want to control one's fate despite the many things holding you back. Looking at the past, I think resignation was the easy way out for me. There's something comfortable about not trying, because if I tried and failed, then I would just get exponentially more disappointed in myself. Resignation was a way out of that, to just bury my feelings regarding my weight, to just accept it as the way it is, and to just think that this was going to be the best that I could ever wish for myself. In a way, I was cheating myself of a better possibility. Agency, on the other hand, is scary because it's about change. And Change means going out of your comfort zone. It means trying things that might fail or might work or might not work. But seeing it now with a new perspective and mindset, I know deep down I wouldn't be as happy and as accomplished if I didn't try in the end. And regardless of what other people or movements might say, nothing had ever felt more empowering than using my own agency to help myself, to reclaim my body, and with it, solve my own problems. It takes a lot of mental preparation and practice to be one with your inner self and body, and you'll have to face a lot of your demons, but you have every right and responsibility for the betterment of your own self, mentally, emotionally, and physically. You owe yourself that much. Before I end this video, I would just like to share a quote from one of my favorite philosophers. He's Danish. His name is Søren Kierkegaard. I'm sorry if I pronounce that wrong, but here's his quote. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to accept what is true. Before the physical conditioning is the mental and emotional repair. So take a step back, reflect, accept, and take that first step again. Thank you so much guys for watching. I wish you all the best on your fitness journeys and your health journeys. Give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Babush!